Danish Prime Minister's visit to Egypt, and we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, sir? Ambassador Bayoumi, this is a very significant visit by the Danish Prime Minister to Egypt. A press conference was just concluded between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Now, how do you see the significance and the timing of this visit?
It is very important, but I'm not saying anything about the timing. The timing is every day. It is the right timing because it is a continuous process of good relations between Egypt and the European Union since 1976, when we concluded our first system agreement between Egypt and the European Union by that time. Now we renewed the agreement in 2001 with 15 member states. Now they are 27. Also the neighbors are included. So we have a wide market for our commodities where we are exempted from any barriers or custom duties. We can export to them without any barriers. Then we come to our guest, which is very important. It is a rich country. It is one of the richest countries in the whole world. If we take the GDP per person, a person in that country earns something like more than $70,000 annually. So we are also engaged in a process of exchange experience. Mm-hmm. And I personally was very near to a very important project, which is building capacity of the Egyptian government institutions. So we visit every single institution in Egypt, and we try to help them by giving them the level of experience which is in Europe. Whereas it is Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, Spain, name it. And this is a very good process that from now and then, either our president is visiting a member state or he is receiving the head of this state in Egypt in order to review where are the opportunities, where are the challenges also, because maybe there are some challenges where we want to take over. And I must say I am highly satisfied because of this process. Our president, mashallah, he covered the whole world, going to Tokyo in Japan, to Paris in France, to New York in the United States, to many of African countries. And now it is quite obvious that we are concentrating on the European dimension. If this is the message we are sending to those who are thinking to invest in Egypt. If you come and invest in Egypt, it is not the country of 100 million inhabitants. No, it is a country of 100 million inhabitants, and it is open to 500 million in Europe, 1,200 million in Africa, and 430 million in the Arab world. Our market now is very wide, and we need intensive investment in our country, and also large-scale industries and high quality of exports in order to fulfill our task.
Right. Well, Ambassador Bayoumi, during the press conference that took place between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, several topics were mentioned. The President Sisi mentioned that in his discussion with the Danish Prime Minister, they tackled several files, including the file of human rights and illegal immigration. They also discussed the repercussions of the Ukrainian war and its impact worldwide. They also discussed the file of the Renaissance Dam and its impact on water security in Egypt. Sir, would you please tell us how you see or assess those very important topics discussed?
You are absolutely right. And in a high-level meeting like that, anything which concerns us you and myself or any Egyptian citizen will be on the table, of course. So they are discussing, of course, the international subjects, such as the corona epidemic, where we make a good progress in Egypt, such as the war in Ukraine, which is annoying all of us, and of course, because of the supply of food and the supply of energy. And here Egypt is playing a positive role, which is encouraged by the European, that Egypt became now a supplier of energy, whether it is electricity or gas or liquid gas or oil. So this is another subject. Also, we are discussing the regional problems, such as what is happening in Syria and Lebanon, what is happening in Yemen or in Sudan. All these, of course, are in our concern. Then we are talking about the Renaissance High Dam of Ethiopia, and our position is very clear and very strong. And by the way, I must say that knowing the details of this file, I am satisfied that this dam will never annoy us. And we warn Ethiopia that if he warns us, this is another story. Also, here, let me talk about a very sensitive subject, which is human rights. When somebody is talking to us about human rights, I ask them, which human rights do you mean? And I wrote an article about that, by the way, because the first day we started negotiation in November 1995, they put in the agreement that both sides will take human rights and democracy as a principle which their relations and their internal policies will be based on. And here I raise the question, what do you mean by human rights? Human rights to you is not the human rights to me. So we agreed to add a sentence. It is the only country which added this sentence. It was Egypt by that time. Human Rights Act, it is stated in the International Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations. Because the fashion now, they will come to you to ask you something saying that this is human rights. To stop the death penalty, we shall never stop this. It is against our religion, against any religion. They come to you asking to stop marrying more than one lady. And I told them in Brussels, I told them in London, isn't it better than two men married to each other and two ladies married to each other? Isn't it better than a married man and he is betraying his wife? At least our culture is more honest. When a man cannot resist his heart towards another lady, he married her. So the new fashion also, under the slogan of freedom of sexual orientation. Here we say big no, and I threatened my counterpart on the European side that if you raise this question, Egypt will never be keen to have any relation with you. So they stopped asking us about this. So we have to be very careful, and we have a strong position. And I think I here recall that one of the foreign ministers of the United States said to Amr Musa, I think it was Christopher, he said, I'm raising the question of human rights, and we are not the best country with a record on human rights. So let us be strong, clear, and we have a country which we want, of course, to be respectable to ourselves and to our human rights, but for the sake of Egyptians, not to please the prime minister of any country in Europe.
Right. Well, Ambassador Bayoumi, also the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen mentioned the cooperation between Africa and Europe, and she mentioned boosting cooperation, especially in the field of energy with Egypt. How do you see the significance of this kind of cooperation?
Yes, as you will know, we have 8 technical committees between Egypt and Europe, and they take part for continuous meetings every year. And of course, one of them is dealing with energy, with environment, and those subjects. And the good thing now that Egypt became, instead of an importer of energy, now we are exporter of energy. And Europe is glad with this, and they are helping us to be in this position in order to help Europe and to help ourselves also. And I think this is a good subject. We are keen to discuss it with our European friends. And it is one good file, one new file we shall explore in order to find new areas of cooperation and development for the sake and the benefit of the two sides.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Many thanks for your insight, sir. And your viewers, that was our coverage for this hour for the visit of the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, who is on a 3-day visit to Egypt that coincides with the 65th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations between Egypt and Denmark. The two leaders, the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held a press conference with the visiting Danish Prime Minister, and he welcomed the Danish Prime Minister, and they spoke about several topics, and they are both keen on upgrading relations between the two countries. And dear viewers, we will be updating you on the Danish Prime Minister visit minute by minute. Many thanks for your insight.